But no one can deny that we are living in the middle of a rogue criminal government. No one who is being honest with themselves can deny that that is exactly what's happening right now. This story is up on prisonplanet.com. Everyone needs to read it. Bloomberg and AP and others reported the same thing, but this adds more of the history so people get a fuller view on what's happening. It's not even editorializing to point out that this is a heist, a robbery, totally criminal. Bloomberg and AP will not say that. We will. They just calmly report that this is happening. Fed hides destination of $2 trillion in bailout money, fails to comply with congressional demands for transparency, underscores age-old problem of top-down socialism and letting the fox guard the henhouse. The Federal Reserve is facing a lawsuit after it failed to comply with congressional demands for transparency and disclosed the destination of at least $2 trillion in bailout funds. Keep telling you it wasn't 850 bill, folks. Ron Paul's analyzed it. Others have analyzed it. They say it's at least $5 trillion, probably more like 10. Could be as high as 25. But in a month and a few days, it's $2 trill. Not one dime going to get the economy going. They're hoarding it all, buying up other banks, and shutting off the money supply. They do that so they can buy stuff up cheaper, underscoring once again the failure of top-down socialism and the folly of trusting the foxes to guard the henhouse. The Federal Reserve is refusing to identify the recipients of almost $2 trillion of emergency loans from American taxpayers or the troubled assets the central bank is accepting as collateral, reports Bloomberg. Remember that they even admitted in mainstream news, well, we didn't want to give people a number that was too big to scare them, but we wanted to give them a number that was big enough so they can get an idea. So we just chose $700 billion. That's right. The legislation just says we make the Treasury king, we make the private banks king. The private banks can merge with the government, not the government take over the banks. See, they get governmental power and governmental regulators to go take over their competition, but then it's non-voting shares the government holds with them. So it's like an interbreeding. They're breeding the government with the New World Order. Oh, what a monster. What an ogre-like troll they've created. The Federal Reserve is refusing to identify the recipients of $2 trillion of emergency loans from American taxpayers or the troubled assets the central bank is accepting as collateral. Fed Chairman Ben S. Bernanke and Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson said in September they would comply with congressional demands for transparency and a $700 billion bailout of the banking system. 2 months later, as the Fed lends far more than a separate rescue program that didn't require approval from Congress. Again, 2 months later, this is separate from the $2 trillion, as the Fed lends far more than in separate rescue programs that didn't require approval from Congress. Americans have no idea where their money is going or what securities the banks are peddling and pledging in return. Bloomberg has requested details of the Fed lending under the U.S. Freedom of Information Act, filed a separate lawsuit in an effort to find out where the money has gone. President-elect Barack Obama, who in September 22nd campaign speech promised to make our government open and transparent so that anyone can ensure our business is the people's business, refused to comment on the story when contacted by Bloomberg, which is no surprise, considering the fact that this is the man who guaranteed change, has indicated he will not only follow the Bush administration policy of a socialized financial system. I disagree that it's socialized. This is just a heist. And I'm not even for socialism. It's just, that's not what it is. The policy of socialized financial system, but radically expanded it. See, it'd be socialized if we got the money. It would devalue the currency. Corrupt government groups would grow up around the money, the favors for who was given the money. That would be bad enough. This is just, it all goes offshore, we get nothing, except paying for it in tax money. The Fed's secrecy on the issue of where the bailout money is going underscores the age-old problem with the top-down socialism as a tool of reshaping the economic landscape. The promise to fairly redistribute the wealth will, with full accountability to achieve a solution that will ultimately benefit everyone, is trumped by the cold reality of the fact that corrupt elites, once the taxpayers have been suckered into believing the lie, merely hoard all the money for themselves and don't redistribute it to anyone apart from their own inner circle of cronies. Absolutely. Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, it's just always the same. Indeed, the banks have admitted that they are hoarding the cash. There's hyperlinks to all these claims we're making. Indeed, the banks have admitted, jokingly, it's very funny to them, and it is kind of funny. I mean, imagine if you're them and evil. It's real funny. I mean, to be raping people like this has never been done. Nothing on this scale. I mean, just gobbling trillions up in front of everyone and laughing about it. Indeed, the banks have admitted that they are hoarding the cash and will keep on doing so while bigwigs reward themselves with fat bonuses as the real economy sinks deeper into the toilet. By design, I would add. But what else could we expect upon hearing that ex-Goldman Sachs executive Neil Kashkari was appointed by Paulson to dole out the ill-gotten gains of the bailout for the rest of the corporate crooks. And that's why they're so confident, because that's what the national security state was set up for. When they set up national security states in Guatemala or Brazil or Argentina or Germany or Japan, they bankrupt the government, then reorganize it where the private banks own everything. This is how they take over third world countries and first world nations. It's happening here now. In fact, the sucking the money out of us, they don't even particularly need that money because they've got fractional reserve banking and could still continue to do it. It's about bankrupting us. They're going to see, we're going to owe all this. They don't just steal the money, folks. You've got to pay for it to the tax man and in inflation. If you let the fox guard the hen house, then he's going to eat the chickens. In this case, the Fed and the gaggle of bastard banker children sucking on its teat gobbled up $5 trillion plus in taxpayers' money and then figuratively stuck the middle finger up when questions were asked about where the money was going. And see, that's the boldness of these criminals. They just do it with such flair, such openness, they go on TV and just laugh at us. The head of Goldman Sachs was interviewed by the New York Times and just laughed and said, we're keeping it all and we're buying up good banks. We're buying up banks that aren't in trouble, and started laughing at them. It's funny. Like Karl Rove said, we control reality, and then we'll change that reality again, and then you'll go along with that. And what do you think they're doing with Barack Obama? They totally control him, and they're laughing. They go, we'll change reality again, and then you'll report on that reality. In this case, the Fed and the gaggle of bastard banker children eating at the trough, gobbled up the $5 trillion plus in taxpayer money, and then figuratively stuck their middle finger up when questions were asked about where the money was going. Meanwhile, the bailout has had no effect whatsoever, increasing the severity of the financial downturn and allowing the same elite to exploit the crisis as a pretext for centralizing control of the world economic system and creating a new world order and a single global currency. Everything they've announced, everything we have said they would do, they're now doing. Open discussion of martial law. Open army brigades on the streets of America. Open federal random checkpoints. Open FEMA camps being built. World banks openly about to set up a world tax, with Barack Obama leading it worldwide to regulate and tax plastic bags, light bulbs, fuel, natural gas, oil, all its derivatives, all the things that come out of it. Every type of factory, every type of industry, but only in the target nations that are targeted to be brought down financially. Only in Germany, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, England, Ireland. Only in the first world nations. Only in Japan. Not in China. Not in India. Not in Mexico. Not in Brazil. Not in Paraguay. Not in the Caribbean. Not in Asia. Not in South Korea, which is first world. More advanced than we are in a lot of respects. They are racing to take everything over. Everything. And so all the remaining industry will flee the United States under the carbon taxes. You thought you didn't have jobs, and all these blue-collar people who were so simply fooled, and all these white-collar yuppies who were so easily fooled. They hate George Bush. They feel trendy. They're against torture. They're against phony wars. They're against executive hubris. And so because George Bush on the surface, he signed back onto UNESCO 4 years ago, because George Bush on the surface said he was against the global carbon tax, the whole world and the middle classes of the world piled on and said, well, if that idiot is against it, it must be real, and I'm going to rebel against George Bush. I'm going to show him. I'm going to get him. And you're going to really get him by paying your tax into the county and the city that will collect it, and about 10%, they're arguing about the models, will be shared locally. Then the 90% will be sent on to the state. They'll keep another 10%. Then it'll be sent on to the feds. They'll keep 30-40%. And then about half of it will be given to the private central bankers who you will buy the carbon credits and cap and trade. World Bank, the Club of Rome, the CFR, admit it's all fake. They laugh at you in public publications. Open. We post them, we write about them, we make films about it. Meanwhile, they are butchering the real environment, just doing things that are probably irrevocable. Just God help us with the genetic engineering and the rest of it, and the toxic waste and all of it. I mean, there's a lot of serious issues, and there is a lot of toxic waste associated with petrochemicals. Don't get me wrong. And they have suppressed real technologies. But see, they trick you. They say, oh, yeah, we're going to have new technologies. Oh, yeah, we're going to move forward. This is going to start a lot of new business and industry. Meanwhile, they're suppressing all of that. All they're going to do is slap a tax on everything, folks. Because to start these clean-burning industries, to start these less toxic industries, it will take carbon to get those going. And they have carbon involved, and then they can always set the tax on whatever they want, on anything that has carbon in it, including what you exhale and what you eat and everything. And they're talking about taxes on all meat, already starting in England. They're already telling restaurants, hey, you have to serve what we say on your menus. They're already CPSing the fat fat children. They don't care about your health. They know Americans are basically eating the same amount of food we ate 30, 40 years ago. In fact, a lot of it was more unhealthy then. They know full well the sodium fluoride lowers your thyroid output. They know full well that high levels of estrogen-mimicking chemicals cause people to be obese and get diabetes. They know all that. They're not stupid. That's why they had hundreds of different types of plastics, and they made sure the only one that got approved was the type that let off this deadly estrogen-mimicking chemical. They're cold-blooded, ladies and gentlemen, and the sooner you come to grips that we have a scientific dictatorship. I mean, they got their stuff together. They design the microchips. They design the networks. They decide what color the road signs are. They engineer the society. And just because you're not on the ball or you're not focused or you're not informed doesn't mean there aren't people who aren't. They are. They run the world. And until we can recognize they run the world and they're taking us in a bad direction, it's only going to get worse. So I want to say it again. We're going to come back and take call. We have a global elite that has set up police state systems so that their corporate governments can turn our original governments, the people's governments, into ceremonial institutions. They are setting up carbon taxes to feudalize the middle class and bring us to our knees like other third world slaves. And they are stealing our entire future birthright and putting us into debt by design in the name of saving us while publicly laughing.
I'm so frustrated. I can't seem to remember anything anymore.
What?
Seriously.